Hello, Flawed Guy here again. Just wanted to give you the second installment of just some cool stories that I think are kind of neat about God. For the channel that's called Talk About God. I just want to talk about him a little bit because I think he's cool, and I think about God every day, and some people maybe they just don't. Um, but for Christians, they've heard some of these stories, and but maybe there's just a few little things. You can read the Bible 100 times and still God will show you something or teach you something depending on where you are in life. If you read the story again and again. But there's just some things ever since I was a young guy that I told you in these stories that I think are cool. And I won't delay on this. I just wanted to read from the story for those of you who aren't Christian, perhaps, that may be seeing these videos. It's a story about uh, a guy named Jacob, and basically, I'm gonna really just get to the point of the story today. But long story short, there was this babies were born to this woman, and they were in the womb together, and the younger um, was named heel catcher because when the babies were coming out, the one baby had grabbed the other brother's heel. It was called like heel catcher was his name, Jacob, or also deceiver, because as the story went along, as they grew up, you know, uh, as siblings, the mother kind of favored Jacob, and the other brother's name was Esau, and the father favored him. And the one guy, Esau, was more like a hunter and everything, and Jacob was more like a stay-at-home, keeper of sheep, stuff around the house kind of person. But anyway, long story short, the younger ended up getting the name Jacob, which, as I said, was heel catcher or supplanter or kind of like a deceiver was what the name meant. And later, as they grew up, as brothers, I won't get into all the intricacies of the story right now, but they were squabbling over basically inheritance and birthright and who got what. And, um, but for the story today, I just wanted to say that the brothers ended up parting ways. And, Jacob kind of got scared because as they got older, they were going to meet up again just at the point of the story I'm going to read. And they had been separated for such a long time, kind of like families, like if they're fighting over money or wills and stuff, you don't talk to some of your brothers and sisters again, and maybe you'll see them again. You're kind of nervous how things are going to go. That's kind of what is going on here just prior to what I'm about to read. It has nothing to do with what I wanted to read the story about, other than I just give you a little background on that. Very, very generic explanation of what I'm reading up to that point. But if you want to read the whole story, start reading in the book of Genesis. This is in chapter 32. And for you Christians, you know the story. But um, this is the point where Jacob is going to meet back with his brother. He's nervous and kind of scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen, what kind of reaction he'll get from the brother that, he basically angered and was separated from. So he's kind of wants to give him some gifts and presents ahead of time before he meets him, kind of hopefully smooth things over a little bit. And the night before he's going to meet him is this where I'm picking up the story to talk about God a little bit. So basically, I'll start at Genesis 32:21. So it says, "So went the present, the gifts he was going to give to his older brother, over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company." And it says, "And he arose up that night," meaning Jacob, "and took his two wives and his two women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint. And he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the day breaks. And he said, I will not let you go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince you have power with God and with men, and has prevailed. And what's interesting here is when Jacob, in the night or the early morning hours, we don't know exactly when it happened, but it was before the dawn, basically. He wrestled, it says, with a man. But as you find out, as he wrestled with this man, his hip became out of joint. And it talks about a sinew shrinking. And as we know, just normal humans wrestling, it would be impossible for another guy to touch another person and just have the sinew shrink in that situation, at his hip joint or whatever. But as the man was speaking with Jacob, it goes on to say, the man said to Jacob, Your name's not going to be called deceiver, supplanter, or heel catcher anymore, but Israel. And then if you look that up, it basically means he will rule as God, or, and this person, to be able to change Jacob's name, it says he had power with God. So that's basically showing you that God was the one he was wrestling with. And it goes on to say, and Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherefore is it that you ask after my name? Now, I want you to keep that in mind, because it's kind of interesting. We'll find out that this is God talking in a few seconds. But God basically replied to Jacob, Well, why is it you're asking after my name? And it says, and he blessed him there. So basically, God had the authority to change Jacob's name, and changed it from Jacob to Israel. And then it goes on to say, and as he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. And I just thought that was interesting, and how that, he wrestled with God. If you actually look up that word, where they actually wrestled, I'm going to try to find that again. Let's see. Let me try to find it again. Sorry about all the clicking, but it says here, he wrestled a man. And if you look it up, it's called Albak, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it means to grapple. So it was an actual physical wrestling match. And just think about that. God, as I told you in the last video, came down and inspected things and talked to a family, and, corrected Abraham's wife and could read their minds, and, had some food with some folks, his friends down here on the earth. And here's another instance, a descendant of those very people, Abraham and them. And he talks to Jacob, and he actually physically grapples with Jacob. And Jacob was given a new name that night by God, which was Israel. And God actually, when he touched and wrestled and grappled with Jacob, caused, the hip to be dislocated or damaged in some way, and an actual sinew in there shrank. And Jacob, to his credit, wanted a blessing from God, and didn't want to let go, so to speak, and was earnest in his faith to wrestle with God to the point, so to speak, so that he wanted to receive a blessing from God, and God basically gave him a new name, and he went from being this deceiver, if you will, if you read the story, to basically the patriarch or of what would become the nation of Israel, and a totally different life, basically after that. And I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's a neat thing to think about. Um, People wonder if that was really God, but if you read in chapter 32 again in verse 30 here, after he says, when God asks him, I said it was God, wherefore is it thou dost ask after my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, or a Peniel, or I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that name means face of God. And it goes on to say, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. So, people back then thought that if they saw God face to face, they would basically just die. But here's another instance, as I spoke last week, where God came down, actually talked to people and hung out with them. And here he actually wrestles with Jacob and, renames him basically. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of commentary on this. It also, Israel comes from meaning a prince, or he was like a soldier of God, God wrestling, God's prince. And what's interesting is it says Jacob recognized this person as someone who could bless him, and he went on to tell you, as I said, he saw God face to face. So he went ahead and said that, God is the one who blessed him, that the sinew shrank miraculously when he was wrestling with this man who Jacob clarifies as he believed was God. The blessing which was given to him, which is something basically only God could bestow on a human being. Again, Jacob claimed he had seen God face to face. And he basically, from that point on, after wrestling with God, had changed from this deceiver and supplanter into, again, basically a patriarch of the nation of Israel, which was cool. But again, I'll go back to something I think is interesting, because I want to read one more quick story. There's something in there that I told you to keep in mind in the back of your mind, and I believe it was the part where he said, wherefore are you asking my name, basically. So I want to go to another story, which is kind of related to what I want you to keep in mind there. Another cool instance where God was around, I believe it's Judges 13. And this is about the birth of Samson. And this was a cool story. Again, read in the book of Judges if you're not familiar with the story, but for time constraints, I just wanted to just jump into this. But I'll read it. It says, and the children of Israel, there's that name, did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and couldn't have any kids. And the angel of the Lord, again, when the Old Testament, when it makes reference to the angel of the Lord, you'll find that it's not just a common angel or, like an angelic being. It's basically in the Old Testament, when the Lord or God would appear, they would use this term angel of the Lord, as you'll see. And again, like for the same reasons that Jacob, it said he wrestled with a man, you find out later he believed this to be God face to face. And that's what the story ended up basically confirming. So the angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said unto her, Behold, now you are barren, and you don't bear any, and bearest not. But thou shalt conceive and bear a son. It goes on to say, Now therefore beware, I pray you, and drink not wine, nor strong drink, or eat anything, not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like the countenance of an angel of God. So remember before Jacob, they used the term man, and now this woman is saying, A man of God came unto me, and his countenance was like an angel of God. Very terrible. So it was something that, maybe kind of frightened her a little bit. But I asked him not from where he was, neither told me his name. And remember I told you in that other story, where God said, Why are you asking about my name? So here she said, I didn't ask him from where he was, neither told he me his name. But he said unto me, Behold, you will conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine or strong drink, neither eat any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which you did send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And God hearkened unto the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again unto the woman as she sat in the field. But Manoah, her husband, wasn't with her. And the woman made haste and ran, showed her husband, and said unto him, Behold, the man hath appeared unto me that came unto me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, came to the man, and said, Are you the man that spoke unto the woman? And he said, I am. That's another interesting thing. He said, I am. And Manoah said, Now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? And the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said unto the woman, let her beware. She may not eat of anything that comes of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her, let her observe. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we have made ready a kid for thee. And the angel of the Lord said unto Manoah, Though thou detain me, I will not eat of thy bread, and if you will offer a burnt offering, you must offer it unto the Lord. For Manoah knew not that he was the angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor. Here we go. We got another person asking about this person's name. Jacob, what's your name? Why are you asking about my name? God said. And then Manoah, in this other instance, is saying unto the angel of the Lord, What is thy name? That when thy sayings come to pass, we may do thee honor. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Why are you asking thou thus after my name, seeing it is secret? And what's interesting there is, again, God is responding and saying, Why are you asking after my name, seeing it is secret? And what's interesting here is if you look up the word secret, it's pili or pali, and it means remarkable, secret, or wonderful. And here's what's interesting It says, "Why ask thou thus after my name, seeing it is wonderful?" Isn't that interesting? And it goes on to say, "So Manoah took a kid with a meat offering, offered it upon a rock unto the Lord, and the angel did what? Wondrously." Kind of like the name, wonderful. Again, Manoah took a kid with a meat offering and offered it upon a rock unto the Lord, and the angel did wondrously. And Manoah and his wife looked on. For it came to pass, when the flame went up towards heaven from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on it, fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah and to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was an angel of the Lord. And Manoah said unto his wife, "We shall surely die, because we have seen God." It's just a similar story. Think about where it said Jacob was wrestling with a man. Then this man actually physically gets into a wrestling match with somebody down here, a physical human being, makes their hip joint dislocate or shrinks a sinew in association with that area. And Jacob, or his name would later become Israel, walked around limping from that day forward, but his heart was changed. And that same man, or we find out later, is God, because Jacob said, "Hey, I've seen God face to face and I'm still alive." And yet God said to him, "Why are you asking about my name? Saying it's, what are you asking about my name?" Then you get this similar situation where this lady who couldn't have kids is visited by an angel of the Lord. It's definitely in the Old Testament. And later, after all these cool things where they want to fix again, like the other story with Abraham, "Hey, can we fix you something to eat? Can we keep you here and be hospitable and do what we should to honor you? And what's your name, so that when all this stuff actually comes to pass, we can be honorable and let people know who you are." And this angel of the Lord responds and says, "Well, why asking about my name, saying it's wonderful?" And then you go on to find out that this angel did wondrously, wonderful, wondrously, wonders. And then afterwards, Manoah said to his wife, "We shall surely die, because we've seen God." So again, another confirmation that this cool event where this angel of the Lord appeared and actually ascended up from off the altar, in a flame. Again, a supernatural, cool event uh, where, people's lives are changed. They're actually spoken to by God. And, it's just cool events. We know that Samson turned into a, very strong and powerful human being. Supernaturally, God touched this child and he grew up into you know, a man of renown in Israel. And, again, read the story about it. It's really cool. But again, I just want to concentrate on God here. He visited, he listened to some people's prayers. He let a woman have a child that previously couldn't have any. Again, like with Sarah and Abraham, um, people wanted to know who, you know, what God's name was. And he said, "Well, my name is Wonderful." And this God did wondrous things. I mean, it's just so cool. And then he rose up into a flame and disappeared out of their sight. And I just think that's just another cool story. They tie in. It's visitations, multiple visitations, separated by many years, and yet it's the same God doing this cool, wondrous stuff. And that's the thing that I thought was neat. Why are you asking about my name? Seeing it's wonderful. Seeing it's just God is wonderful. And you know, He can do miracles for us. And I'm sure there's countless people who could attest that he saved them, saved their kids. I can't explain why sometimes God doesn't always intervene, you know, but just to give hope and comfort and, hope in this world to know that, all these people seeking aliens and things and all these just weird things. And yet you've got this being, God himself, who you can read all about in the book and find out he's wonderful, does cool stuff for people. It's just a neat thought. Keep that in your heart. I'll do one more little short video, probably shorter than this one, just another neat story. And it gives you a little bit of a different take about God, but it's still neat nonetheless. So I hope that, you know, get your mind stirring a little bit. Think about God. Seek God, the God of the Bible. You find that this is basically, you know, Jesus Christ prior to taking human form. This is God, the Word, prior to, becoming human, fully God. But in the Old Testament, came and visited people and interacted with, the history of mankind through various people. And in particular, as we spoke about today, the nation of Israel. And you'll find that even today, a lot of our news and a lot of our concerns in the world has to do with that teeny little country over there in the Middle East. And why is it so important? Because it basically ties in with God dealing with the affairs of man. And, you'll find we can go over in another study that's going to be the capital of the universe in Jerusalem on this planet. And God is going to rule and reign on this planet, Earth. He's going to come down from heaven and actually rule and reign from Jerusalem. And, it's spiritual and religious in nature. Why the world is always wondering about Israel and everything's going on that has to do with, the Jewish nation, or Israel, I should say, and, the geopolitical ramifications in that whole area. And you just go back to these neat little stories where God himself actually comes to this earth. So he's not done with this planet, not by a long shot. And just to let you know, thousands of years ago, he's visited. He's still watching us now, and there's still more yet to come as far as Earth's history. But just a neat little thing to talk about God. Hope you enjoyed it. One more short one next week. And please feel free to comment. I haven't had many comments. I don't have, tons of followers or, people watching, but those of you that do, feel free to comment. Let me know what you think. And, maybe there's some topics that maybe y'all are interested in. Feel free to share this, site to others. And, hopefully it'll be a blessing to people, and really just to get people to know who God really is and seek and study and learn of the actual person who created this universe and the people in it. Take care. Till next time. Bye.